Got overwhelmed? Here's how to break free. Overwhelm is something many of us experience on a daily basis. It's that constant feeling of being buried under everything you need to do, whether it's work, family, health, or the dreams that you've been holding on to. And it doesn't just hit now and then, it lingers. And over time, it can feel like a heavy weight that you carry with you everywhere. And the worst part is the longer you stay in this cycle, the harder it becomes to move forward, no matter how hard you try. And the pain of overwhelm, it isn't just in the feeling of being stuck. It's the fact that when we stay in this place for too long, it starts to take a toll on our dreams. The bigger goals you've been holding on to, they start to feel further and further out of reach. And that's heartbreaking. It's like watching your future slip further away, even though you want to make progress so badly. Stephen Porges, who is the creator of the polyvagal theory, tells us that when we're overwhelmed, our nervous system goes into a state of freeze. This is part of the body's natural survival mechanism, and it's deeply tied to the stress response. Chronic overwhelm can keep us stuck in this freeze state, making it nearly impossible to take action towards our goals. This isn't your destiny, however. You can break free from that cycle, and it starts with one simple but powerful shift in perspective. Over the next 3 weeks, I'm going to share one tip a week to help you break free, to help you develop a new perspective on overwhelm and make steady progress towards your goals. Here's tip number 1. Forget about solving the big picture problem today. When life feels like too much, the last thing you need is to try to solve everything at once, right? This is where a lot of people, myself included, can get caught. We look at the big picture, at everything that needs fixing, everything that needs done, and it feels too big, too impossible to tackle. But instead of trying to fix everything right now, ask yourself, what are the 1 to 3 things I can do today that move me closer to my bigger goal? So I'll share an example from Anne's life. After years of trauma, health struggles, and a whirlwind of changes in her life, Anne found herself in a place where she desperately wanted and needed to get her life back on track. She needed to find a job, go back to school, raise 2 kids, all while trying to build a business and heal herself. No wonder she felt overwhelmed all the time. And this deep overwhelm kept her stuck on the couch and sick much of the time. What helped Anne start to shift out of that overwhelm was to stop trying to do everything all at once. She acknowledged her big dreams and her goals, but then really worked on accepting that they were going to take time to achieve. Her one thing each day became showing up for her online class, that small step toward a bigger future. And by focusing on that small action, she stopped feeling like a daily failure and started to feel more empowered. You don't have to do it all today. It is these small, consistent steps that will help get you there ultimately. Trying to solve everything all at once is nothing more than a recipe for shutdown. Showing up for just one thing today can make all the difference. So you might be saying, all right, this makes sense, but what does that look like in action? Well, first of all, you want to get really specific with your 1 to 3 tasks, right? It's easy to say, just choose 1 to 3 things today. But the key is getting very clear and very specific, rather than thinking about vague ideas like, I'll work on my business. Be extremely detailed. For example, I'll write 2 paragraphs of my business plan, or I'll respond to 3 emails related to my business. That's clearer and more manageable. So how do you then apply this? Well, I'm going to invite you, write your big goals at the top of the piece of paper, and then ask yourself, what are the series of little tasks that I can do each day that will help move me just an inch closer to that goal? And you can also break these tasks down into even more manageable bite-sized pieces. If your goal is to build a website, don't write work on the website. Instead, break it down into smaller and smaller tasks. Find 3 website design inspirations. Choose a color scheme. Write 1 paragraph for the about section, right? And then use the next action method. Sometimes the overwhelm comes from not knowing where to start or what action to take first or next. And when that happens, just try focusing on the very next action you can take. It's often the smallest, easiest step that gets you moving. So when you're faced with a really long to-do list, ask yourself, what's the very next thing I can do? So for example, instead of thinking about, I need to write a blog post, think about opening the document, creating the title as your first step, or two pieces of the outline, right? These tiny actions feel much less overwhelming. Then you set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes, and you do those little tiny bite-sized pieces. And the last thing I'll say is to make sure you're celebrating. Overwhelm often comes with a sense of failure, especially if the progress feels slow. But even the tiniest step forward counts, and it's important to acknowledge that. When you're stuck in overwhelm, progress might feel non-existent, but every action you take, no matter how small, it really does move you forward. So after completing your 1 to 3 tasks for the day, take a moment to celebrate yourself. It can be as simple as saying, well done, or treating yourself to something small, a cup of tea or a walk outside. And track your wins. Write them down at the end of the day, because seeing those small steps that you've taken and how they add up over time, and it really helps to shift your mindset away from, I'm not doing enough, to, oh, I'm making progress. I also encourage you to create an accountability system. So make your daily actions visible to someone, whether it's a close friend, a mentor, or even posting it on social media, because accountability gives you an extra layer of motivation, and it's a powerful way to keep yourself honest about making progress. Just, sharing, being able to share your goals, whether it's just sending them a quick text or letting somebody know what you're working on, right? And we've set up the You're Not the Problem Facebook group so that you have a place where you can come and safely share your steps and receive support. So make sure to click the link down below and join the Facebook group today. And I'm really going to encourage you to take this, listen to this video again, really start to focus on those next steps and celebrating the process and the progress that you've made. It's those consistent actions that will create lasting change. So I invite you, keep an eye out for tip number 2 next week. We're going to dive into another powerful strategy to help you break through the overwhelm and keep moving forward. Until then, take care of yourself and give yourself credit for every step that you take.